What's going on? It's Court of Nerds. It's Drew.
Stacey.
And we wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Iron Fist this week. Our studios are being remodeled right now. We're very fancy and insist on having nice things. So, much like Danny Putty's character from Powerless. However, studio space is unavailable. Stacey still wanted to talk about Iron Fist, so I'm going to let Stacey talk because I'm a gentleman and ladies should go first.
Okay, so I know nothing about the character. So for me, it's complete outsider, which is kind of like my thing in this group.
Well, it's not outsider. Hang on. Let's be very clear here.
Nerd with no history.
Stacey is not a comic book nerd.
Yeah,
You started as a tech nerd.
Yes.
And we kind of dragged you into this world as a photographer. And then you kind of loved it and stuck around.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's like a cancer.
Wow. We're like a cancer.
Have you ever heard that Tim Minchin song?
We'll fix it in post.
So anyway, so this Iron Fist character, he seems so, he's so naive. He comes back after like 15 years, which is reminiscent of Arrow, being gone, except Arrow was gone as an adult.
Right.
Whereas Danny, what's his name, right?
Yep.
Danny came back or he was gone as a kid, so it's a little bit different. So he's been like on this mountaintop. He has no idea what's going on in the real world. Completely naive, and kind of a ninny, I guess.
And that's where it kind of makes me sad. I didn't hate this series at all. In fact, I had a lot of fun watching it. There's a lot of great kung fu moments. And Colleen Wing as a character may be one of Marvel's strongest female protagonists. I mean, she's a badass. Let's not even lie.
Is she moody in the comics?
A little bit. She's a little bit crazy. But you know, again, ninjas. What are you gonna do?
Now, somebody told me that it was supposed to be karate and not kung fu. Is that right?
No. Okay. When people are watching it, when you think of martial arts, the immediate American thought is karate.
Okay.
This is kung fu. This is using your opponent's force against them. This is philosophy and zen and a whole way of thinking. It's Bushido. It's a code. It's honor.
Okay.
You know, karate is a method of combat. Kung fu is a way of life.
Okay.
Which kind of makes me a sucker for this show, you guys. I'm a kung fu nerd.
I feel like they did that fairly well, at least.
And they did. And that's accurate.
I feel like they almost maybe forced that a little too much.
A little bit. Look.
Because that's what it feels like. The whole thing feels forced. I've got about 30 minutes left of the last episode, and I easily walked out without being like, oh, I wish that I could watch. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to watch that later.
For those that aren't familiar with it, IGN.com actually put out a great list, and we'll put up a link on the Court of Nerds Facebook page, about 5 comic book storylines you could read to get to know that Iron Fist is a great character. And frankly, much as I've confessed my love for Green Arrow and the DC Universe, Danny Rand is my favorite Marvel character. I fell in love with Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction's take on it with David Aja on the art. Some of you may be more familiar with Fraction and Aja as the team behind Hawkeye, the award-winning Hawkeye series. Those guys destroyed Iron Fist, did an incredible job. And Kari Andrews picked up the character and did another great take on it. The Netflix series is neither of those, which is a bummer. Because that Danny Rand, he has that innocence that you kind of love about Finn Jones' take on the character, but he also has that warrior spirit that he talks about. I mean, it's a switch that in some versions, he flips on and off like that.
Well, that's what I feel like they were doing with this one, is it's like 1 second he's fine, and then the next second he's just like losing his freaking mind.
And they just didn't communicate it well. It wasn't really well understood what was happening. I thought the actual power of the Iron Fist was done well, and I think a lot of people complained that we didn't see more of Kunlun, that we didn't see more of the 7 cities of heaven.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's something they were saving for season 2. Because they know they're getting a season 2.
The Defenders?
I don't think the Defenders are going to the 7 cities of heaven. Okay. I'm pretty sure the Defenders are going to be smack dab in the middle of New York.
See, with stuff like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, like, after I saw those, I want to go read those comic books.
Right.
And I'm not a comic book nerd at all. From this, I don't want to read the comics because I feel like it's a super lame character, which probably breaks your heart.
It does. It makes my heart very sad. Here's something, my buddy Kevin and Kay Fine, if you're watching this, you kind of inspired me today. The bar was set so high by Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Luke Cage that it was really slim that Iron Fist was going to succeed.
Yeah, but I feel like they could have at least tried a little bit harder.
Feels like a placeholder.
Because the odds are against it doesn't mean that they didn't have to do such a shit job.
Well, the problem with the show, my biggest problem with it, is Danny Rand is the least interesting character outside of Ward, who is a terrible character. Danny Rand is the least interesting character on the show. Colleen Wing, as she does in the comics many times, actually upstages Danny.
Colleen and Joy. I actually found that Joy was more interesting.
Fascinating.
The female characters outshadowed the male characters by far,
my
opinion.
Absolutely. I'd agree with that completely. I don't think we got enough out of Bakuto. Madame Gao was fascinating.
Okay, Madame Gao, she was awesome.
Yep.
Again, female character that was awesome. Where the hell did Bakuto come from? Because it was just like 1 second he was there, and I'm like, what?
Right, he appears briefly in one episode before that. Yeah,
that you're fighting. It felt like they were trying to do too much and ended up doing nothing.
It felt a lot like the first Thor movie felt to me, where it was, or Avengers: Age of Ultron.
I was thinking Suicide Squad, like you're doing too much and you're totally missing the mark.
That's too mean.
But it's true.
I don't like it. It's too mean.
It's true. Why?
One of my other bones to pick with the series, and this was a fun one with our buddy Eric today from MLive. Eric and I were arguing over the don't snap at the dog.
Boomer!
We don't want to fix that in post.
God, it's so annoying.
ADD. Is the soundtrack of the show. How you gonna make a kung fu show with one episode directed by the RZA from Wu-Tang, but you got no Wu-Tang on your soundtrack? What are you doing? I mean, even the music on Danny's iPod was wrong. No 10-year-old in New York City in 2002 was rocking the Outkast.
Only you.
Jay-Z, Nas. I was thinking some of the top pop stuff was Nelly. Eminem was big in 2002. This was a very in-depth and important discussion to us.
Well, they made it a point to shoot the iPod after.
Yeah.
Small spoiler, I guess. They made it a point, like,
to show
don't
you the
put
iPod.
a gun on the counter unless you're going to use it for something. And
Right.
I felt like that just completely lost
like
in
the
translation.
iPod had some kind of meaning to it or something, and he kept having it around. So, I don't know. I don't think we've given you away anything in the show other than...
There's an iPod.
It's okay. It's all right. It's not bad. It's not as bad as the critics made it out to be, which I think actually works in its favor, having everyone hate it beforehand. Because I went in with really low expectations, but again, I'm a sucker.
16% Rotten Tomatoes?
That's not fair.
That seems harsh.
That's not fair.
That seems way harsh.
By the way, before we say goodbye here, I want to point out that Stacey has been squatting this whole time to be as tall as me sitting down.
True.
But that's it for us on Iron Fist. We'll be back with our 100th episode podcast next week. We're going to talk about everything that kind of brought us to where we are, and maybe about where we're going a little bit. Is that the dog?
Look at this little asshole.
We made it all that way without swearing. And you ruined it.
Well, it is me. I mean...
Stacey ruins everything. Court of Nerds. Check out Court of Nerds, thecourtofnerds.com.